Hi, everybody. Thanks. So this image behind me is a Grecian urn with Ulysses on it, or Odysseus, with his hands tied to the mast. This is something I've gotten really fascinated by, partly in my work. In my day job, I am one of the unelected bros who censors the internet. And in that capacity, I think a lot about rules and rule sets and the ways that we try to find the behavior that we want. So I'll tell you a little bit about this idea of the Ulysses Pact or the Ulysses contract, because it's been on my mind so much. The story comes from book 12 of the Odyssey, and essentially Odysseus is setting sail to go home, and he's talking to Circe about what to do. There's a bunch of treacherous things on the way, and the first one is the sirens. The sirens are these part woman, part bird creatures that sing songs. And the songs cause men to go crazy, and when they sail by, they wind up dashing their boats on the rocks, and killing everybody, which is not a good way to captain a boat. So, but Ulysses wants to hear the song because in it is wisdom and knowledge about the future. And so what is he going to do? Well, in order to not kill everybody, he has his crew, and this is the Picasso version, by the way, he has his crew stuff their ears with beeswax so they can't hear the songs and they can just row and pilot straight. What he does is that he asks the crew to bind his arms to the mast and to take away his freedom to do anything so that he can hear the song and get the insight. They wind up surviving even though he begs to be set free, and this story has been sort of depicted in this moment by artists throughout history because I think it exerts a couple of really fascinating ideas, on me at least. And one of them is that sometimes in order to create freedom, you have to take away your freedom. In order to create options and create the future that you want, you have to reduce your number of options. And there's something counterintuitive and fascinating about that. Another way of thinking about this is that you have the things you want, and you have the things that you want to want, and the Ulysses Pact is a lever for forcing yourself from one into the other and gaining leverage over yourself. And yet another way of thinking about it, and maybe my favorite, is that a Ulysses Pact, if you can pull it off, is a time machine. It's a way of opening up a conversation with your future self and then negotiating over how you can work together to bring the future that you want into the present. And so I think a lot about that, and I'll give you a couple of examples. Maybe the most rudimentary Ulysses Pact is the swear jar. You want to be less of a foul mouth, so you throw a coin in the jar. The sort of high-octane version of this is the, if I don't make it to the gym, somebody winds up sending a payment to my most hated nonprofit. And so there are many, and another interesting one that I like is assigning your life insurance to somebody so you can spend the money now, arguably. A macabre Ulysses contract, but a valuable one. And there are other ones. Ignited in its own way is a sort of Ulysses contract with the constraints of time and Brady playing the sirens. And finally, the one that I think the most about, and this is the antiquarian, nerdy part of the talk, is transparency reports. If there's one thing that I could try to cause you all to do, it would be to care a ton about transparency reports. These are the potential Ulysses Pact that social media and other companies can make and that you can ask them to make. A commitment to tell you a lot of stuff about what's taken down, about where money from ads comes from, and a lot of other things. And you cannot count on somebody to make that commitment themselves necessarily. You cannot count on the government necessarily to do it. You have to clamor for the advance commitment of what will be said and then realize when it is not said. So I sort of invite you all to get into that and to take seriously the idea that you can demand the Ulysses Pact you need that will give us the leverage we want to get to that future. And with that, I guess I'll leave you with a last thought, because I know there's lots of seekers of wisdom and future creators in the audience, which is, as you propel us into the future, I ask you to consider that sometimes it is not the options or the power or the optionality that you want to maximize in order to get us there. It's actually, you want to look for the constraints and the commitments and the limitations that are going to set us free.